I stayed up all night making another funny level with hidden secrets for Mario, and in this video I'm going to show you all of the tricks, and you can let me know if you'd be able to figure out how to make it through these traps. So the level starts off and there are two doors that you can go through. If you go through the door on the left, the giant bird flies away and Mario ends up going for a swim in the ocean, but right now he can't swim, so you don't want to do that. The door on the right has arrows pointing to it, so that must be good, right? But that just makes you fall off near the start of the level. At least, now we know where we have to go. So we run to the beginning of the level, jump down safely onto the cloud platform, and make it through this door. That brings you into the next part of the level, but there are lots of spike bars all over the floor, so it is really easy to take damage and die quickly here. I really wanted to encourage and reward exploration in this level, so this question mark block up here has a mushroom, and this tree has a mushroom, and this other tree also has a mushroom power-up if you climb up onto it. So now that we have a mushroom in storage, let's go back down to this door and maybe we can safely get the green star. If you jump up and dive into the wall, then you bonk, and even though you get the star, Mario is probably going to die. One strategy that you can use that might be a bit better is you can immediately send out your item that you have in storage when you get through the door, then you jump up and get the star, then you have to try and dive into the mushroom that you sent out before landing on the spikes. This way, you can probably make it over safely to the right, or you can at least get to the next mushroom that is here to survive. And yeah, I know that your natural instinct might be to try to jump off of these spikes and just get onto the regular grass, but I actually have invisible walls all along here, so you can't exit that way and you have to follow along on the spike bars. That's why it's good to bring a mushroom with you. When you finally do make it over to the right safely here, you can see that the goal pole is there and there's a green star just over to the right. But there's actually an invisible wall stopping you from getting there, and there's also an invisible slope that actually pushes you down towards the left if you try to jump there. So we end up at this lower part of the level, and you can use this superstar power up here to defeat the Koopa Troopa and go into the warp box. But the warp box makes you go back into the door at the beginning of the level, and that drops you off into the ocean. And by the way, if you're wondering why we aren't going any farther to the left here, that's because there's an invisible wall here that is stopping us from moving any farther to the left. But just like most games, this object, this invisible wall, has collision in only one direction, so you can't move through it to the left. But if you are on the left side, like this Koopa Troopa, you can actually move through the invisible wall to the right. What you do want to do here is lure over that Koopa Troopa from the left, get its shell, and destroy the stone block with the shell, and that will reveal a warp box for you. If you go into this warp box, that brings you onto a small green island with a wide toad. If you step on this P switch, that spawns a warp box on you, and that brings you to the previous warp box, and then the door, and then the other door, and you're dropped off into the ocean. This video should be titled Mario Goes Swimming in the Ocean. So I need you to pay really close attention here because you might notice something, and you might have already noticed this. You might notice that the warp box that brings you to this green cube island actually disappears when you pop out of it, and a different warp box is still left in its place. You actually have to go into this warp box, and that will bring you to the next part of the island. And that works because there were two warp boxes on that exact same spot. So up here, you can step onto this P switch, and that makes a warp box appear up here for you. Nothing happens if you defeat this Bowser, but you have to be careful to not accidentally go too far to the right and go onto the spike bars, because these invisible walls work only one way. So, if you make it back here and you go into this warp box, that brings you back to the earlier warp box, and that brings you back into the door, and that door drops you off at the ocean, and you don't want to go swimming. You might think that you want to head up the level and explore here, and there is a P switch here. When you hit this P switch, that makes this warp box appear, but that just brings you onto the other P switch, and that brings you to the other warp boxes and the other doors and the ocean again. What you actually need to do to progress is get this super bell over here, and look at these arrows that are giving you a hint to go down here to this cloud platform, and some of you might have noticed this cloud platform earlier. From this cloud platform, you can climb up here and defeat the Goomba and the Spiny. Well, Hopefully you can defeat the Spiny. Because when you defeat both of them, that is when a green pipe appears for you, and when you go down that pipe, that brings you to an island with the checkpoint flag, so it feels like we are making progress through this level now. Next, you are going to have to bounce along on these flying dry bones, not cat dive through them the way that I did here when I was trying to rush through this level, and this would be a fun level to speedrun too. This part might look like it is pretty difficult, and sometimes I do mess this up, but the strategy that works really well is just this. Get full run speed, hold the jump button, hold right on the joystick, and hope that you can just bounce along on all of them and reach the next platform island. Now, you are on an island of wooden boxes. If you break through this first one, that brings you to a pipe that makes you land on this switch, and if your reaction time is fast enough, you can actually avoid this whole cycle and not have to go swimming in the ocean again. This warp box to the top right also does the same thing, but now the camera is a bit more zoomed out, so we have a cool view of the level and everything that's happening. There is a coin here at the bottom left of this wooden block island, suggesting that maybe you have to break this wooden box, but if you break this one, you just fall through into the ocean. This wooden crate at the bottom right is actually the one that you have to break, and that teleports you to another green island. If you walk down a bit, you can see that there are two doors here off the edge. One is to the left with a green star in front of it, and if you go through that, it drops you from way up high, and if you don't do anything, you actually drop right back down exactly where you started. So, if you go through the door on the right, that brings you to near the ending, where you can get green star number 3, the last green star, and if you try and get the goal pole, then it kills you immediately. That's because this is a fake goal pole, and once you touch it, I programmed the game so that it activates a death area that kills everything inside here. So, instead of going for the fake goal pole, let's continue up to the top right part of the level. We can make a jump to this smaller part of Super Bell Hill, and there are a few tiny doors here that Mario can fit through. It's kind of surprising that he can fit through that door. Going through this door on the left makes you go through this whole cycle that drops you off back into the ocean at the end, as you know. Instead, what you need to do here is actually climb up this tree and a bomb will pop out. You need to carefully bring over this bomb, and also before it explodes, you need to throw it at the stone block, exploding it and revealing a door. When you go through this door, there will be a stamp here for you, as well as a Super Bell power-up. There's also a wide toad, and here is the real goal pole for you. You've now collected all of the green stars and the stamp, and I love how you stand on the railing right here when you finish this level. Guys, we need to get my sister to play this level. I'm going to comment, ZXMany's sister, please play this level. If my comment gets at least 2 likes, I'm going to get her to play this level. I'm even going to like the comment myself, so that we only need 1 more like to get her to play this level. I'm even going to log in on my other account and like the comment, so that we already have 2 likes, so that she has to play this level now. Thank you for your help. We have now reached 2 likes. Now, she has to play this level. She has no choice anymore. Very nice. You've got to check out the video where my sister plays through this level and tries to solve it. There are so many great moments, and you might also like our co-op playthrough of Super Mario 64. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day ahead of you, and take care, everybody.